This first speaker is going to get your head right. This first speaker has done 21 years in the Navy. He has also done workforce training for a long, long time. He's got a stellar resume that I'm going to get into in a minute. But I did talk to him before the conference and asked him what his favorite presentation was. But it's not this one.
That's not what we said.
Oh, all right, it is this one. All right, well, listen, I'll get into this paragraph about you, Bob. Bob Freytag is a senior consulting partner. Listen, what Bob does is important to you in setting the tone for the rest of this conference. So please welcome, without further ado, Mr. Bob Freytag.
Told me that I only had an hour with you, which was great, so my intention is to make it seem like 3. Good morning, thank you, and it's a privilege and an honor to spend this time with you. I stepped out of uniform 21 years ago, 3 months, 4 days ago. I had a 21-year career as Blanchard with you, and before we talk any more about me, and most important, what these next few days could mean to you, what I'd like to do is recognize a couple of people that really helped make this possible and treated me amazingly well. I travel the world. I've worked continuously in 4 different continents, so to be able to come here and experience what I experienced here yesterday and last night, this morning was phenomenal. In particular, I'd like to point out, and I'd like everybody here to please stand up and applaud for a couple folks. Those folks are Doug Lynn. Let's go ahead and give Doug a hand. Recognize the work, the wonderful work this men's contest has done. Caretaker and steward of the camp here, Connie. Connie, are you around? Sit down. A quick note, why is that important? It isn't just a formality to say thank you. It's a way of interacting with others, to let them know that the sacrifice and the work, and most of us work hard, most of us will pour ourselves into the work that we do. We'll lean into it and we'll say, thank you, job well done, and on the other side of them receiving it, hey, that's just my job, right? That's just what we do. That's the standard of care that we have. Let me tell you about the little details that matter. So, Doug, when I checked in, you're the first person I see yesterday afternoon. You come out of the big work that you're doing here, you're in a ladder, you're working hard, committing yourself to what's going on. You come up, walk up, greet me, and welcome me, and then eventually take me down where I'm going to spend the night, where I'm going to stay, make sure that we check in. Notice that the place doesn't have some shampoo and some soap. And you say, hey, I'll get that for you, we'll take care of that. I come back in, I know how busy Doug is, I see what's happening, it's easy for those things to slip off their mind. I'm conditioned to have a lot of promises told to me in the travels that I've made. So I know it's a great intention on Doug's part, it's going to take care of a little detail like that, right? And so what I do is I get in my car and I travel the 11 miles down, and I pick it up because I know I need a backstop on Doug's great intentions. Didn't know Doug that much. And then I get home and everything's fine. Not that I needed much shampoo, I'm going to add on. Just a little more situational awareness there, I promise. And so what happens this morning, I wake up, and what did I find out? Doug had snuck in during the night and had actually made sure that the soap and the shampoo, see, I've even forgotten what that thing is, shampoo, was in the bathroom. That's a little detail that could have easily got missed and easily understood and happens routinely. And so when I woke up this morning, what did that little act tell me about Doug? Integrity. He's walking his talk. How important is that? Most of us know the talk. Most of us work hard to walk the talk. Leadership is by example. We have no choice in that. The choice we have is what that example will be. So that stands out for me. In a world of business that I do and travel that I have, that's a standard. That's a great standard. So thank you for it. Thank you. Okay, so now that we've got about another 57 minutes left. Yeah, we've got this. So some of the things that you would hear about me typically in a well-executed introduction. Where are you on? Right here. I see it coming down your cheek there. No worries at all. You would have heard things like I'm a senior consulting partner. I actually help run the consulting partner for the Western region, even though I live all the way in Virginia. So we're a company with the Ken Blanchard companies that we're pretty much virtual. We do a lot of our work virtually as well. I am here with you exactly 1 month from last month when we were out at the incident commanders meeting that we had out there. Okay, so Tim, thank you very much for making all of this happen as well. I appreciate the hard work that you put into this, and the fact that you recognize that I might need some steady employment as well, and following up on all of that. Okay, so I am here with you, and it's a great privilege to be here with you. And I got started working in this particular arena, working with CAL FIRE. I do that right now. I'm a lead consultant partner with CAL FIRE. CAL FIRE reached out to the Ken Blanchard companies back in 2019 because what CAL FIRE wanted to do is round out a wonderful culture. A culture that was based upon supervising and managing very well, getting stuff done, getting results done. Results are important. But they also took a look at the way that they were leading. And they also noticed that there was some challenges that all of us in this industry are facing right now, right? Some of those challenges are holding on to talent. Some of the challenges is stress that we've got. The sense of resiliency that's going on. Mother Nature herself really trying to do some pretty difficult stuff on top of everything else. Quick side note, rabbit track that I'm going to be on with you right now. How many of you think that winning the lottery is a good thing, particularly if it's up over $50 million? Well, raise your hand if you like it. How many of you don't like voting by raising your hand? Go ahead and raise your hand. You're in this last one. By the way, we've got a balance problem. Actually, the research and studies to the winners, the people that actually win these lotteries, actually identified is life better after winning the lottery. And actually, it's not. Not in every instance. What the lottery does, what having access to something that important and significant is it brings stress. It brings stress into a life. And what that stress will do is it's going to reveal your game. It's going to reveal where you're strong, it's going to reveal where you're weak. It's going to reveal where you're standing up strong and where you're bent over and where you're about to break. That's what it does. If you're not ready for it, if you don't have your house in order, something like that, that event's not actually be a good thing. That's what these fire seasons do as well. They actually reveal where we're good, where we're healthy, where we're strong, where we call that in our research organizational vitality, and what that means, and where we're not. And what I'd like to do with you is just have a conversation. Is it okay for me to not use the microphone? Is it working in the back? It's a mic test right now, by the way. We're okay with that? Okay. So the other things that would have come up that sometimes come up in an introduction of me is that I'm a submariner. As I shared with you, I've got about 3.5 years of my life underwater, all packed together just like you are on this side of the room. My longest time underwater is 89 straight days. So when you add up all the time that I spent underwater, it's about 3.5 years. And there's a really good feedback system, a feedback loop that emerges when you're stuck in a 32-foot by 33 by 42-foot wide, depending upon the class of submarine that you're on, by 425 to 560-foot long submarines, all right? You can't escape the realities of your bad choices and your bad personality. Because it isn't, hey, I'll see you in a couple weeks from now. I'll see you in a couple minutes from now. When you roll out of my rack, and I'm rolling back in, and it's a warm rack, okay? All right, so I want to share some of that with you. I want to share what it means to lead, what leadership is about. Leadership is what's happening when you're there, for sure. Leadership is also what happens when you're not there. What is the difference between supervising and managing? What happens over a period of time if we're not aware of this and don't keep this in the front of our mind into our impact, not our intentions. Most of our intentions are good intentions, but the impact we have on others and how over a period of time it starts to feel toxic. That's what I'd like to talk to you about. There's some other speakers that are going to come in today as well and tomorrow, and they're they're going to give you systems approaches, which is wonderful. They're going to give you insights into systematic tools. Some of those are technological, helping you have great situational awareness of the events and the teams and the activities and the stuff that's getting done. Wouldn't it be cool if we had tact for people? We had the ability to see the impact that we have on others. Well, we do. We just have to open our eyes and our hearts to it. One of the other things about me is that I'm a co-author of the Servant Leader program for the Blanchard company. I talk about the head, the heart, the hands, and then the habits. And it's the habits that I'd like for you to start thinking about when we roll this out and talk a little bit more in detail. Okay? So I think that this is supposed to work. All right. What I'd like for you to do is study these three words. And to somebody nearby, so we might be talking with Samantha on this one, so we might be talking here. With the person nearby, I want you to look at those three words and determine which of those three words is most important to you and why. Go ahead and just turn to the person beside you or around you. They would say, rarely do I hear relationships. It's okay, and we've got to be focused on both. So the key word there obviously is and. What I'd like for you to do is study and think about this. I shared with you that leadership is by example. You're always leading by example. You have no choice in that. The example is what that choice is going to be. What is the power of relationship? The power of relationship is sustainability of results. Results are crucial and critical. You've got a lot of systems, a lot of processes, a lot of protocols and procedures, technology, techniques, hard-won lessons learned. You've got all of that to make sure that we can get the results. And that's the business that you're in. You're in the fix-it business. I was in that business. I ran the Navy's Nuclear Weapons Inspection Center the last 5 years of my career. I'm a results-focused person. I worked hard and developed a reputation the first half of my Navy career, and my nickname became Business Only Bob. That's what BOB stood for. My mom was right. My face got stuck like this. Careful, your face is going to get stuck like that. I was all about results. Nuclear weapons business. Accident incidents. 0 accidents, 0 incidents. I'm a 3rd generation Navy person, 2nd generation submariner, born in the Navy shipyard, Navy submarine shipyard in Maine. I knew how to get results. I knew how to drive results. And I was rewarded handsomely in the first half of my career for that with great promotion. I went from E1 to E7 in 8 years. That's moving pretty fast. Way too fast, by the way, I'll add. I didn't develop good judgment. By the way, where does good judgment come from, typically? Experience. Another way to say experience is poor judgment and lots of it. But we make mistakes. I can stand here and look you in the eye and tell you that all my mistakes were not due to bad intentions. They were not due to laziness. I've worked hard. I set a standard for the people that were trying to follow me, and I was trying to set an example for them what hard work looked like. But I had a net negative impact that first half of the year. My career stalled at one point. Now, why were my focus on results? It's because of the way that I had been led. It's the way that I'd seen others lead. Most of us lead the way that we've been led. I had the honor as well of having a great-grandfather and a great father in my life, for sure. And when they saw that I finally settled down enough to make a decision of going to the military, and I actually had a year of college before I joined the military, and unfortunately they didn't pass out good scholarships for partying, even though I was gifted. Okay, I fled to the military because I had a high school sweetheart. I really did want to produce a family and a great future in that, so I went to the comfort of our family industry. And when I joined the Navy, I remember my father telling me that if you're going to be in the Navy and you're going to promote, you're going to start leading people, there's three things you got to get right. You got to make sure that your folks completely understand what you're asking them to do. Expectations are clear. You've got to teach them and train them to do their work better than anybody else, and you have to bring them home safely. Bring them back home to their family. You do those three things, you're going to be a great leader. You're going to have a great future in the Navy. And so I leaned into that. I remember my grandfather telling me, because I was frustrated at one point, and I came back home, we were eating dinner, and he told me at the dinner table, he said, listen, you're getting all twisted up over these feelings and things your folks have. Don't let their feelings be your problems. If feelings were important, they would have issued them in a CVAC. This is the model. This is the mode. Now, I wasn't a mean, rude person. I'm not a physically intimidating person. I was all about results, however. I was about the rules, the regulations, getting things done right. There's a reason we've got these rules. People have bled for these rules. So I got that, and I told you that my career stalled. I'm going to share something else with you. Paying just attention to just those results also ended up in me losing the dearest relationship I had to my high school sweetheart. I had a failed marriage in 1990, April of 1990. That's where that came from. So what I'd like to share with you, if your drone footage of the last week of your life, you can't sit here and tell me that it doesn't focus on this and part right here. That's way too small a dot. I'm just going to put it out right here. If it isn't about the and you don't have the same diligence to the balance of results and relationships, there's a chance that what you're growing is toxic leadership, where people don't get healthy around you, and you yourself you're not as healthy as you need to be in that regard. So, here's something that's been a truth in my life. Results move at the speed of relationships, and relationships move at the speed of trust. Do you agree or disagree with that? Let me read it again. Just out of your way. You're going to get such a critic in your neck. Results move at the speed of relationships. Move at the speed of relationships. What does that mean? And relationships move at the speed of trust. That's maybe a little bit easier to understand. So, is trust important? If I read this and I kind of cycle through that, I'm going to find out that for me, the dog on that is trust. The tail on that is results. And the results is what I really got to get. So if I've got to get this, I want to reduce the resistance to results. That's for the relationship. So what am I doing there? I have to build trust. So, how important is trust, folks? Everything. It's everything. Tell me more.
It's the currency.
It's what?
It's the currency of the relationship.
It's a courtesy.
And the currency.
Oh, the currency. Yeah. That's what we spend with each other. Sometimes I'll go into a deficit bank account. Dr. Cody actually helped get us together on that concept with the 7 habits of highly effective people. I love it. It is a currency. It's what we spend. Do we overdraw it? How much do we count on trust? So if trust is so important, sometimes I hear in response to that question, It's everything. It's crucial. It's critical. It's imperative. Would those be words that you would not argue against? Okay. If it's so important, how many of you woke up this morning and you said, I'm going to be with 150, 200 folks, people, colleagues, friends. Here's 3 things I'm going to do today to build trust with them on purpose. I got a plan. Anybody? Bueller? Bueller? Anyone? I'm going to build trust. Here's 3 things. All right. Conversely, I don't believe that most of you woke up this morning. There's a couple of you I'm still wondering about, but I don't think most of you woke up this morning and said, here's 3 things I'm going to do to break trust. We take it for granted, and it's so important. If we don't understand what it takes to build trust on purpose, if we don't check in with ourselves and with others and measure the impact that we're having, that is a process that you must do every single day. You got to step into the mirror to do that. And you got to look into other people's eyes. You got to see that in the moment when you're there. What does a lack of trust start to look like? You've got to understand the antecedents of it. Because if you don't, you're going to need some of that relationship, and you're not going to have the value of it. It's not going to be there. So I'd like to share with you as well in the time that we have a quick way to think about and to get connected with the concept of trust on purpose. Okay? Results move at the speed of relationships. Relationships move at the speed of trust. So, please stand up. Put yourself down. Be careful of the debris that falls off your body when you're close to your chair. All right, we got a lot of stuff that nesting materials that is on the floor here. I am going to ask for you to move around a little bit. I'm going to give you 45 seconds to greet as many people as you can in this room. I want you to greet them as if there's somebody more important to greet than them. It might look something like this. If you want to know our name, your name? What's this? Nice to meet you. Good morning. Yeah, nice to meet you. How you doing? What's your name? Frank. Frank? Is this one? In other words, you've got 45 seconds to just get it done. Greet as many people as you can. Begin. Successful, getting the results I asked you for, you are involved in participating in the activity, but we're not actually observing what's going on. So, in order to develop a TAC, if you will, awareness of what's going on in the moment, what we have to do is have 2 points of view. We have to be a participant in what you're being asked to do as a leader, and you have to be an observer. What are we doing? Good. Are we doing that well? What are the systems? Is it efficient, economical? The other part that we have to always ask ourselves is, how are we doing? Not just what needs to get done, but how are we doing? And I want to show you something about human nature. We started to form these organic systems to accomplish the work and be a little bit more efficient and economical. You're starting to see these pass-bys, these little lines that start to emerge as we're getting, and I didn't say that, I didn't give that, it wasn't a process or protocol. You organized yourselves as much as you could to start getting the results, more of the results as possible. Now, did you greet a lot of people? All right, you greeted many people. And so the behavior that you had, which is observable, that's what we have to become aware of, impacted the performance, which increased or decreased the results that you had. We have to be successful, and you're great at that. Part of our work is to see what needs to get fixed and fix it as well. The other part, the other opportunity that we have when we work with human beings is to also help. And there's a big difference between fixing and helping. Now I want to show you something else, and we're going to contrast it a little bit. And this time I'm going to give you 45 seconds, and I want you to greet as many people as you can, but I want you to greet them as if they're the most important person. For the time that you're going to spend with them, yeah, I'm looking at you. And I want you to greet them as if they're the most important person. And it might look something like this. Hey, how you doing, Oscar? How you been? What's going on with you?
Enjoying the moment.
Enjoying the moment? That's great. It's great to meet you. Thank you for the time. And your name is Mark. How are you doing, Mark? Everything going okay?
All right.
All right. All right. So I want you to greet, those are two people. Greet as many people as you can, but this time as if they're the most important person. Have some fun in a moment with a person. You okay with that? 45 seconds, begin. All right. Based upon the first reading that we had, up until Mr. Payne came up here and shook my hand, I had nobody shaking my hand. You guys were off doing your stuff. You came up, you did come up, you weren't the first one that came up, okay? And I was over here doing my thing, looking at my notes, making sure I get the points made that I want to make with you. I did that on purpose. In other words, for this keynote, I purposefully made myself not available. Not available for the connection. The connection is what's important. I've studied this aspect of servant leadership, toxic leadership in particular, and approachability. A face like this is not an approachable face. It's a liability to relationship. It really is, and I know that going into it. I am at rest right now. This is my low energy face. If I don't have the self-awareness of that, however, I'm going to have a net negative impact on others that are looking to see, is Bob approachable? Is it okay to talk with Bob today? I have to purposefully put energy into that. It's a higher energy state. So when I get frustrated, when I do get tired, when I get angry, I have to realize the impact it has most important, the reason I'm doing that is the impact it has on approachability. If people feel like they can't approach me, there's things I'm not going to know or learn that I have to, that's within my responsibility to make decisions on. And then what ends up happening is things fall apart, I fly in, I swoop in to fix things, and I end up saying things like this. What happened? Well, you should have called me sooner. You should have called me. Well, you should have been available. Well, it doesn't matter. You should still call me. Yeah, well, and then we start shooting on each other. Did I say that slowly? Shooting all over the place. We know what the right thing to do is. It's interpersonal dynamics that we take for granted. It's going to be fun. And often that's a hope, that's an aspiration, but it's unfulfilled. And where it hits us the most is at the worst possible time when we need that relationship to be strong, when the stress and the pressure is on the most. And not having a good sense of approachability is an actual psychological safety. It's a sense of well-being. My job, really, Bob 1.0 did a good job, got up to E7 in those 8 years, great, my career stalled, I keep home to an empty house, all of those things. That was Bob 1.0. I had to go on a search because that wasn't what I had planned. I had to go on a search to find out what the heck was a better way. How to become Bob 2.0. And I still aspire, I still work on that hard. If I don't share this story, the people at work or I work with don't believe that that was possible with who I am today, in contrast, which I'm thankful for and I'm really happy about that. But there is times where I'll just dive right in Bob 1.0, who's right beneath the surface, is going to come take over. And when that happens, that creates liabilities in the relationship. Okay? Thank you, Mr. Pinckney, for coming up and shaking my hand. It showed others that Bob is approachable, and I had more people come up and shake my hand. All right? Now, I would like to be approachable. I'd like to be open. I'd like to be honest. I would like for people to feel with low fear in a high-trust environment. There's not as much fear. You don't have to depend upon courage to have the right conversation if you're in the right relationship the right way. Does that make sense? Where there's less belief in that, less well-being in that relationship, then we have to wait for bad feelings to give us the energy to finally say what the truth is. Trust leads to truth. Truth is what we're after when we're trying to make the decisions that we're involved with. And leadership, by the way, is a partnership. It's not just a position. And that's a framework, a mindset that I want you to help your people with as well. Help them understand that the best leaders you've ever had were leaders that were approachable. They were leaders that you felt that you had a certain sense of trust and respect in. That it was okay to talk about the good and the bad with these leaders. There was not a lot of fear associated with that. That's our job. That becomes part of our mission. Our commitment to ourselves, the people that depend upon us, and our commitment to those that are working with us. We're putting in just as much effort. If you really believe that results and relationships are important, like you told me, this is the effort it requires. The good news is, over time, even if you're business only Bob, over time, you can actually moderate and change the expectations people have of you to the better. What happened here in this last greeting is you became effective. You became effective. You had impact on the attitudes of others, the feelings of others, the sense of commitment. If all we're focused on are results, you will create an environment around you that is compliance-driven. And if it's to the extreme, it will be malicious compliance. Hey, I just did what you told me to do. Can't blame me. Where's ownership in that model? Where's frustration in that model? And if that's the model that we're really good at, by the way, because that's the fix-it model as well, but that's the only model we're looking at, what ends up happening is you've always got to be there to make those results happen. They're not self-sustainable, and you've always got to be right. Mission's impossible. So what we have to do is find the balance between successful and effective. How many of you actually shook more hands, greeted more people in the first greeting? How many of you felt like the second greeting felt better? And to me, the observation was you really enjoyed it a lot more because I almost had to throw water. I almost had to cut Samantha loose on you to get you to stop talking. So here's the thing to understand, and this has been studied. We've got a lot of information that's up on the website for you. Any of the research you want, we're a research company on this. I'm an engineer by training and background. I like concepts, but I like the science, and I'm not going to commit to something that doesn't work in the field. But I've got to understand why it works to begin with. So our research bears this out. Dr. Victor Vroom's work from Harvard actually identified that people will do what they can do when they want to. Do you agree or disagree with that? Okay, this is called the expectancy theory. Okay? And there's a lot that gets unpacked. It's a pretty big book. It's called Work and Motivation that he put together many years ago. All right? But the simple truth of that he takes from this, and this is his statement, is this. People will do what they can do when they want to. So what's our role in leadership in that? What's the impact you have on want and sustainability of results so that you don't always have to be there? That's what we're looking at. Okay? Now, there are differences between supervising and managing. So I'd like for you, with somebody new, if you can, reach around beside you, behind you, or in front of you, and define your opinion as what supervising and managing mean. If you had to define what supervising and managing mean, what would your definitions be? Go ahead, talk about it. Spend about 10 seconds, 15 seconds. get some good A's in that. You get training for that, systems training. You go through academies. You go through on-the-job training. You get mentoring on how to be good at those things. And if we're lucky, sometimes we'll meet up with a leader who's going to show us how to lead as well. If we're lucky, if we've been fortunate. We have to do leadership on purpose. We can't take things for granted. Because what happens to trust if this is all you're good at? And we have to be good at this. You'll be able. There's 4 components of trust that I'm going to share with you. Able, believable, connected, and dependable. ABCDs. All right? These are going to help us be able in the pursuit of the technical aspects of our job, not necessarily the people aspects. How we do these are important. How we work with others drives the impact that we have on others. So when we think about leadership, here's other things that we have to be focused on and just as good. Providing a shared vision, getting people aligned. Agree or disagree with this one? Just let me know. Everybody's motivated, agree or disagree. And by everybody, what I mean is you take a statistical average, the mean, and you go 2 standard deviations either side of that, and that comprises the population I'm going to call everybody. Inside of that population, thinking about that right now, is most everybody that you've met, almost everybody in this room. So if you think of that, is everybody motivated? And my statement is everybody is motivated. Do you agree or disagree with that? How many of you are saying, I know someone who's not motivated, and I wear my shoes out, I'm buying a pair of shoes every month for them, because I lose it, particularly my right one. In other words, what I'm doing to get that person to choose to put their energy and their focus into something I need them to do. That's what motivation is. It's alignment. Everybody's motivated, believe it or not. And how they're motivated, they're either motivated because they're aligned to what you're asking them to be aligned to, which means they need to understand what they need to be aligned to, so we have to be clear in that. There's a lot of management that takes place in that. And then we have to work with them in a way that they then choose to take their energy and their focus and put it towards that. That's called alignment of motivation. Or they're motivated to get the heck away from what you're telling them to do. But they're motivated. They're making choices of what they're going to stay focused on and commit some energy to. And our opportunity in leadership is to help people get aligned to what we're talking about. Leadership helps provide this vision of where we're going and why. It's about sharing, not just telling. It's about doing both of these well. The net negative impact of just being good here and being a failure, if you will, or very weak on this side, atrophied on this side, is trust. What happens to trust when we look at people and not just organization and structure? We're taking a look at what needs to get done, but also bravely asking the system, how are we doing in pursuit of what needs to get done? There's a sense of democracy, not just autocracy. When times are rough, and you know this better than I do, I actually, for 2 years, was a member of the submarine force firefighting and evaluation test team. We worked out of the Shadwell project in Mobile, Alabama. And the good news is that they put us down there in the months of July and August. Actually had boondockers. When we would step across through the hatch, land on the other side, you had to be careful of committing your full body to that. Anybody know what crayons and radiators are? Hot radiators and melting crayons? Anybody ever do that or heard of it? That's what was happening to the soles of our boots. You'd slide and you'd rack your left knee if you were going through right knee first, right leg first. That's how hot things were, all right? And what I wanted to make sure of in working with the firefighting test team, like you guys do, is that we want to make sure that we're focused on the tasks that have to be done. We're making decisions that are going to affect the lives of others. That's our mission. You know that. I'm not teaching you anything new in that, in regards to that. But if we lose the bigger picture of our people when we're not in the heat, when we're not there taking the blood pressure and pulse of somebody, most of our time outside of these seasons, we're going to be preparing for those events. What are you doing with your folks to build that capital, if you will, on purpose? We have to lead well. Good leadership does the right thing with people, not to people. Okay? What's your report card there? Right? So, why should we care about the culture that we're trying to create? Because you're going to have a culture, whether you're purposefully trying to create a microculture. I have have the new culture around me, Bob 2.0, all right? And there was some healing that needed to take place with my children as well. I, on purpose, built a better culture because culture actually eats the best plans, the best intentions that I had for breakfast. Only 3 things happen naturally in an organization: friction, confusion, and underperformance. Everything else requires leadership. Don't do anything. Just let your procedures run the show and execute on the procedure. And how many of you actually struggle with some of this friction, confusion, underperformance? That's what I'm talking about. It's not hypothetical. It's very real. And it looks a little bit different person to person. Thematically, this is what we're struggling with. So let's talk about toxic leadership. Toxic leadership isn't something that's done on purpose typically. I get a chance to mentor and coach many hundreds of leaders from the top of the house on down. All right? And in that regard, I can see that most people are well-intended. They have their intentions, what they wake up in the morning with, and then they have the impact, what they go to bed at night, at the end of the day with. And quite often there's a large gap that's unsustainable in their lives. All right? I want you to think about the best leader you ever had. What was it that he or she did or does? No names. I'm not asking for you to produce names on it. This is your best. And how did what they do make you feel about them? Followership, if you will. So I want you to think about this and share it with somebody beside you. Come up with a list of 2 or 3 things that they specifically did. Here's a moment. If you listen to your partner when they tell you, you can say, you can learn from them and say, that's what their best leader did. Ask yourself, am I doing those things? And if not, put it on your to-do list. You following me? So take a minute with each other and identify the best things that your best leader did and how it made you feel. Start talking about feelings. I've been on through the years, what I've seen that the best leaders do is they help us be successful and effective. They bring the energy that that second part of the greeting had. We look forward to working with them and around them and doing the things we're aligned to what they're asking us to do. So what are the things that they did? That's what you just discussed. They also help us be successful. There's less fear in that. There's more confidence that comes from that. There's more self-trust that emerges from that as well. These are the things that they're helping us do. Now, I want you to do something that's much more difficult for you. I want you to think about the worst leader you've ever had. And I know you haven't had many. And if they're in this room, please do not look at them right now. Do not stare a hole in them. No names in this. But what are the 2 or 3 things that that worst leader, from the time that you were a child maybe up till now, no names in it, what did they do and how did it make you feel? Those are the 2 things I want you to talk about right now. Go ahead. want to work with them. And when people make their decisions that I don't want to work with that person anymore, they do one of two things typically. They quit and leave, they find someone else that they want to work with, or they quit and stay. And they tolerate. They do, and the toleration is built. And where does the stress come from? And it's stoic, and this is revealed in the different ways that people have different personalities. Sometimes it's very stoic. It's a sense of toleration that at some point, then you get that one moment where the situation that you're trying to help with is just overcome because you don't have the emotional strength anymore to deal with it. And that's when we break. And we break in many different ways. And toxic leadership contributes to that breaking point. And how many of you have ever met a toxic leader? And I can almost guarantee you, I feel very comfortable telling you this, those toxic leaders didn't have that on their list of to-do items. I want to be a toxic leader today. I can't wait. This is what I want to be known for. This is the legacy I want to leave. Toxicity, that's where it's at for me. It happens over time. It's one of the laws of thermodynamics. It's called the law of entropy. It happens a little bit at a time. It's not part of the plan. But we get out of touch with how to maintain the balance of successfulness and effectiveness. And we just take it for granted. I know you've got my back. I know that. And you know that I've got your back, right? Okay, we're good to go. Check. There's the check. First check in the check box. This is a maintenance item. People are not, well, even pieces of machinery. We've got maintenance schedules. We've got mean time between failure rates that we understand. We take care of our equipment is better shape to take care of us when we need it. Would you agree? Yeah. How many of you take that same strategy to your relationships? How many of you slow down at the end of a month when we're not encumbered with rescue and fix, and we say these three things, we ask these three questions to the folks around us. What's going well? What are we learning? What needs to change? 3 quick questions, maintenance questions. I use these in the family. I use these with my mom when she's getting ready to move from Georgia. We were hoping she'd move from Georgia up to Virginia, where we're from, so that she could spend the last chapter of her life with us. And at one point, I was traveling a lot. Every Sunday, we would ask those 3 questions. We would get involved with those at the dinner table. She called me up in the middle of the week and she said, "When are you coming home? I really want to visit those questions. I got something I need to tell you." I drank the Kool-Aid, okay. You don't necessarily have to bring it to your mother and that sort of thing if you don't want to, but what is your system to make sure that you're building the relationships on purpose? That's one of the systems I use. Another system I use is I actually have a life mission statement. I generated it early in my development of Bob 2.0. My life mission statement is to provide help, healing, and hope while living with honor, courage, and commitment to all those I'm called to serve. And that's right in front of me. It's on my bathroom mirror at home today. It's what I read. It's what I wake up to. It's what I make my choices with. It's the report card I hold myself accountable. I also have a new chapter in my book of license, 2010, called Stepchildren. It's what I used in the life of a 13-year-old young man named Justin. I used this to help him get to know me. And I didn't academically sit him down and say, "Here's my life mission statement." But I made commitments to him. I honored those. And the honor, courage, and commitment is what I got from the Navy. I personalized them. I behavioralized them. And if he doesn't see me showing up this way, I've given him permission at 13 and 14 years old to start giving me feedback. Think about it. It doesn't mean that he's got carte blanche over how I'm going to, "Hey, you said you were committed. Well, I need to have some fun. I need your commitment with your wallet." I don't mean that. There's a framework, an ethos that goes with that. And I'm teaching this young man coming into his life. Now he just got married 2 weeks ago in Columbia, South Carolina. He's got 2 majors and a bachelor's, an undergrad degree, and 1 minor as a result of taking charge of his life. And one of the greatest honors I had is during the reception after that, he pointed and he talked about the first time that he met me and how happy he was about it. Excuse me. Yep. Haven't shared that one in public yet. I need to go to a therapist on that. These are the ways that it comes back around again. You can take a lot for granted, but if you're consistent, if you know what you're steering by, and my life mission statement is what I steer by, and that's what helps provide my consistency. is what others then find confidence in me on and increases interpersonal trust on. It's an important commitment that you make to yourself to be healthy so that you have self-trust. Joy, where are you? Joy? Thank you, Joy. Joy came up when we were reading and doing everything else, and she talked to me about the significance in her life of learning early about self-trust and how important that is. Do you trust yourself? Well, off the top of your head, sure, I trust myself. But when you get right down to it, where does your consistency come from? What is it that you really trust? Do you trust who you are and how you're going to show up each and every time? And do you know how you're showing up? Okay. What we're doing in leadership is we're creating these things called turning points, opportunities for people to engage or disengage people. Whether you know you're doing it or not, you are. You're leading by example. You ask somebody a question. Tim, I asked you a question. How are you feeling about this conference and the rest of the week? How are you feeling about it, Tim?
Awesome.
Tell me more. You see what I just did? He starts to answer me, and then for just that second, he starts to answer it. Fortunately, you were very clean and crisp and neat in that, which is meets my personality. Be brief and be gone. All right, I'm okay with that one. Had you started to elaborate, I would have been asking myself, oh my gosh, I've just created a monster. How long is he going to go on with this? And then I would have looked at my watch for just a second to see how much time I have left on this. Are you with me? And in that moment, that turning point that I'm looking at my watch after him answering a question that I asked, how's that making him feel? What opportunity to misunderstand have I just provided? I do care about your answer, and I do care about what's going on, but I care a lot more that I'm getting done in time. I got stuff to do. That self-focus is at the root of toxic leadership. It shows up in the little details. Are you asking somebody a question and you're there, but they look into your eyes and they see that you're anywhere else but there? Have you ever done that with somebody? If they've been talking to you, you've been talking to them actually, and you can tell that they're not all present. They're multitasking. They're doing something else. They're not all in for the minute of time it takes to be all in. These are the habits that we're in, folks. So where are you going to get the feedback? We're creating these turning points. We're either making things better or making things worse. I want you to have that kind of burned into your retina. Now, our job is to build trust. So there's 4 things. Feel free to take pictures of this, by the way, if you want to take pictures of it. Okay? And I'll have the presentation available, the PDF, and we'll upload it on the website. So if you just want to sit back and just bring it into your head and your heart, that's fine. Okay? The 4 elements of trust are that we need to ensure that we're able, demonstrates competence, not just in your job description, in your role and position, but you also want to be an able leader. You want to be able to work with people and make them just as important as the equipment gear and checklist you're working with. Are you able? Are you believable? Do you act with integrity and speak with truth? Are you connected and care about others? And how does that show up? How do they know? What does your drone footage show? And are you dependable? Honors commitment. Now, where are you? Doug. Doug just left. You must have seen this one coming. Doug has earned my trust. And I've only known Doug for about 12 hours. Maybe 24 hours now. I've known Doug for about 24 hours, and that's a man that has earned my trust. Because he's able in what he's doing, he demonstrates knowledge and skill in what he's doing. I've seen that. This room is set up and ready to go. No surprises. He's believable. The promises that he made, he kept, meaning that he's dependable. And the way that he did that, the way they communicated with me, he helped me with more than just one problem getting ready for my time with you today. I needed a printout made. I needed this presentation printed out because I made a couple changes. He helped make that happen with time. So he delivered on all 4 elements, and as such, he became worthy. This is what I want you to hear. He became worthy of my trust. And that's a business that we're in. Are you worthy of other people's trust? Because trust is a funny thing. Would you agree with that? Let's see how funny it is. In 1 minute, I want you to define trust. What is the definition of trust? Speak it over, talk about it with the partner beside you. Define what trust is. and suck at one of them, and you got a problem with trust. In other words, the term for that is they're multiplicative. Anything times 0 equals what? We have to be good at all 4. Able, believable, connected, and independent. Bob 1.0 was the most able, technical leader you would find. All right, it's what got a lot of my promotions up to a point. It wasn't until I was connected later on in life that my career was able to pick back up again. Okay, I got as far as I could on my own, so to speak. I was really good at exit interviews and new hire training, Bob 1.0. I was super at it. I never asked myself why, though. I just got good at what I had to be good at. I wanted to be in a stay business, not a see you go bye-bye business. I was training the force, training the fleet. They were passing through, becoming great sailors, great performers for somebody else. I couldn't hold on to it. Okay? Because I was only focused on results. And I had 0 tolerations for anybody that didn't produce the results that they were trained to produce. And you don't want to work here? Fine. I don't want you working here. Let's find another home for you. It was cut and dry with me. Okay. How to kill a culture. It starts with a sound like that. Most of us don't wake up with this as our outcome that we're looking for. Toxic leaders are individuals who, by the very nature of their self-interest, abuse power and position, promote themselves at the expense of subordinates. That's at the far end. That's somebody whose ego is out of control now, and occasionally we'll see that. There's less than that's about 1.3% of the population that becomes narcissistic and has those types of problems associated with it. Power hungry, and they just have to squash people, and they take joy in that. It's far fewer than you would imagine. Okay, casualties due to toxic leadership, rival casualties due to enemy combat. One retired general calls toxic leadership an institutional cancer, and it absolutely is. There's a body count associated with that. I had a chance to sit on a board a couple times in the Pentagon before I left, where they were looking at joint enlisted leadership programs because there was a body count when we had Navy coming to work for Army, Army coming to work for Navy, Marines trying to sort it all out, Air Force telling us what needed to be done over the phone. Got that one. Okay. There literally was a body count associated with that until we could get our ship together. Got it. All right, I'll let that go. Very good. Basically, toxic leaderships increase these things. And how many of these are organizational challenges and drama that you've been looking at? Suicide rates, addiction rates, depression rates, mental illness rates, divorce rates, reported injuries that are going on. The way that it shows up is this way: narcissistic, acting in own self-interest, poor listeners, lack of empathy. I'll listen to you just until I think I understand what you're telling me, then I'll tell you what to do. They're not making people feel heard. So that's a thing you can do if you want to become a great leader, is anybody that's talking to you, in that moment, decide, what can I do to make this person feel heard? What's your first name? Yes, Steve. So let's say that you talk to me after the session, and we're talking. One of the things that's going on in my head is, how do I make Steve feel heard? How am I listening to Steve? How does Steve deserve to be listened to from me right now as a human being? That's what's baked into my DNA now. And it's accounting for a lot better health and relationships and a lot less stress for me. Because if you leave, even if we don't agree with each other, Steve, and you're leaving that moment, we didn't agree, we didn't arrive at a conclusion that was mutually satisfactory for each, you're leaving there at least feeling respected. Your dignity is intact. I helped you feel heard. It sounds simple. It's not in your training, typically. They often take credit for others' work, hypersensitive to criticism, overinflated sense of self-importance. That's the way that I got early on. If I had a disagreement with somebody and I wasn't getting anywhere with them, I would look at their collar device, and then I would look at my collar device, and then I would look at their collar device again, and I go, what's your question? You're laughing. That's a sad laugh, I hope. As funny as it sounds, and that's what I leaned on. Authority is a poor substitute for leadership. You may need it from time to time. You should never be comfortable having to depend upon your authority. And if you find that you're becoming comfortable, and it's one of the most well-used golf clubs in your golf bag of leadership, we've got a problem, Houston. Rage, berating, humiliating others. treating people with disrespect. That's the way that it shows up. All of this is studied. You have to share the research with you on it. It stems from an ego-related problem. Ego has two different paths. One is pride and arrogance, an overly high opinion of yourself. The other one is the more typical route that people tend to take, even though they cover it up and conceal it. This is the route I took, a low opinion of yourself. Self-esteem problems. We don't have the self-trust, which is different. There's a difference between self-confidence and arrogance. Confidence we need to have. It's a reassurance. You know that what's working, you know it's right, but you're still open to learn. You're still willing to challenge what you think you know and have it be challenged. You're approachable. That's a good kind of confidence. The bad kind of confidence is where you're not willing to learn anymore. You're set in your ways, and that's actually called arrogance, if you look at it that way. So now you're on both paths, all right? Pride and arrogance path shows up by promotion of self, boasting, taking all the credit, showing off, doing all the talking, demanding all the attention. Cutting people off. You're always the voice in the room. At one point or another, you're going to come in, always adding value to what other people say. Yeah, and you find yourself, and don't forget, somebody else's word can't be good enough. You've always got to tune it up and clean it up. Because where's the focus? It's on yourself and what else you feel you need to have and say, and you want other people's focus on you as well, because it helps you. Fear, self-doubt, protecting self. This is where ego comes from. Hiding behind position, withholding information, intimidating others, hoarding control. That's what I did. I became a fatal funnel for decision making. That's another reason why I had to be there. But when something went wrong, who did they have to call? That's right. Are you with me? There's a sense of job security in that as well. Okay. How is ego showing up with you? Discouraging honest feedback. People stop talking about because it didn't matter. The human ego does a couple things. It always separates you from the greater good, other people, and yourself. It always compares with others and is never happy. You're always looking and challenging, competing to be better, to be seen as better, known as better, instead of just trying to be better. And the last part, it distorts the truth into a false sense of security or fear and self-doubt. So I want us to do, in the little bit of time that we have left right now, I want us to do an ego anonymous meeting. It looks something like this. Welcome to an Ego's Anonymous meeting. I'm an egomaniac. Hi, my name is Bob. And everybody says, hi. Very much. That's how it goes. My name is Bob. I'm an egomaniac. The last time my ego got the best of me was about 6 weeks ago. I was driving in my truck and somebody was trying to pass me on the left, and I kind of closed the gap on them. They're not going to do that to me. And they ended up, actually, I stopped paying attention. They passed me on the right, on the actual median of the road, and they got up in front of me, and I got right on them. I'm going to teach them. That's not the right thing to do. I'm a regulator now. I'm in my big F-450. How did they do that to me? Don't they understand what's going on? They don't even know me. But where's my focus? It's on me and what they did to me. Are you with me? That's an ego-related problem right there. They finally scooted into the left lane, and I closed the gap. And I looked at them. My window all of a sudden started to come down on its own. I don't know how that happened. And I looked across to them, and I said, where's the turn signals? And they're just kind of looking like this. Their window came down. Uh-oh, danger. Warning, Will Robinson. This is a bad moment that's happening right now. But I'm full of myself right now, and I'm going to teach them a lesson. Hey, next time you want to get in front of somebody, try using the turn signals. It goes a long way in society. Please help. And this is their wonderful response to me. What? Are you with me? They said, what? So I want you to stand up. That's the last time my ego got the best of me, about 6 weeks ago. I want you to turn to somebody, and I want you to say, hi, my name is Steve. Hi, my name is Tim. Last time my ego got the best of me was, and then return and repeat with each other. 2 minutes on it, 1 minute on the way. as well. It's a pleasure taking this step with you. Enjoy. And Smith, you had it there.
I had it.
You've ever heard this? You can do it. You can do it. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to call an audible. I'm going to let you, Tim, have this video, and you can show this at the close or at lunch or any other time that you're ready. I'm not going to waste the time. We've got another person that needs the time. All right? So these will be words to lead by. Maybe you can close out the whole presentation. We'll see. But it's yours. Have fun with it. Thank you again. Very much.
Whoa. Great job, Bob. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Fun, right?
Fun, yes. Yes. Please give Bob a warm. I have a gift for you, Bob, and I also have a couple questions for the audience. We have to load up our next presentation, so that can probably happen while we're doing a little Q&A. Could I have a token of appreciation from Foresters and Fire Wardens? You can fill it up with coffee here and use it today. Yeah, so congratulations. Thank you very much. Shake hands along. You gonna be okay with that?
Yes, sir. Okay, that's close enough.
Who's got a question for Bob? I asked for one question. All right, Chad.
Bob, question for you. You go out and you teach all over the place. What profession have you found where you struggle the most to connect with?
Okay, so sales.
Because you come from that culture?
No, I actually don't come from a sales culture. Sales
Oh,
background.
it's sales.
Sales. Just say it's not sailing, but it is one where they're trained to produce a front of confidence, social confidence, which also happens in law enforcement. It also happens in the private industry. Law enforcement, my son's a sergeant in the Charleston Police Department. I've been involved in nuclear weapons safety and security my whole Navy career. I understand that a little bit more, so it's a little less intimidating. But the sales is taught to put up a front and not have a whole lot behind it at times, from time to time on that. And that's such a great stress for them. So getting through that boundary with sales tends to be problematic from time to time. That's the one that provides probably the greatest challenge. Successful with it, but there's a lot of work for me that goes into it.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Bob? One over on this side of the room, the crowded side of the room, something? I have a question for you then, on Bob, based on Bob's presentation. What happens to people, why is winning the lottery bad? Stress. Very good, very good. What does the letters B-O-B mean? All right, this is solely Bob. Very good, very good. What eats strategy for breakfast? Culture. Very good. I'll tell you what.
I have one other thing to
Yes, go
say.
ahead.
Bob 1.0 conversion to 2.0 is still ongoing, but it took 9 months before I finally had sailors that were no longer willing to leave. 9 months of activity before I finally had one sailor come to want to work for me. Stay with it. Pick the things that work. Focus on your people and be committed to them. There's nothing better in life. I'll tell you that. Thank you.
Bob, I tell you what, it's been a pleasure meeting you. You know, just listening to your speech, reading your bio, it makes perfect sense how this presentation. A little more. It makes perfect sense how this presentation aligns with your life goals and your life, mission statement. It's perfect, and we really appreciate the message, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much.